What up, everybody? How you doing today? I'm Knoc
Knef CEO.
Welcome to the Knoc and Knef podcast. What we got going on today?
Being a college graduate and me taking college courses, education is a big priority in our lives and our kids' lives. Being older now and seeing what the world has, given us, and seeing what things you need to use, and how do you feel, or what do you feel, I should say, should be taught in schools, regardless of what you learned versus what you know now?
Okay. Math, science should be paramount. Basically, the basics should be the same. I think we should start teaching foreign languages earlier. I think we should start teaching coding earlier because the world has transitioned to where coding is the number one thing now. Mm-hmm. Also, for people that aren't mathematically or scientifically gifted, I think we need to go back to having metal shop, auto shop, machine shop, wood shop, so that we can teach these skills, even plumbing. We can teach these skills in the junior high school level. They can be learning this stuff. So when they get out of high school, they can walk out of high school with a trade, a profession, something that's going to be really prosperous for them.
I think a trade is exactly what I'm trying to get at with this question. We don't teach enough kids how to do stuff, build, create. Kids have imagination, so yeah, we all use Legos and blocks and whatever. But taking that and converting that into a business, or taking that and converting it into a career, we're seeing that dwindle down less. Mm-hmm. I feel like schools are old guard, honestly. I'm not saying, obviously we need schools, but I also feel like schools need to be teaching stuff that we learn, that we deal with every day. I ask my kids, my son will ask me some crazy math question that he has, and I'm like, you'll never use that. And I find myself saying that more and more. Now, we do rely on technology. I know I could sit here and talk to my phone and ask my phone any question I want to ask, mm-hmm. and it'll have some kind of answer. But I also know that I'm not the greatest in math, but I can figure out common basic adding and subtracting, multiplication in my head, which is what we need. But I also feel like we need to teach buying a house, finance,
checking and savings.
We need to teach these things because they're not being taught. And the adults, the parents, don't teach their kids.
Also, we need to teach the political process so people can understand what voting really means and what voting really does.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my son, he's about to be 16. Your son's already out of school, out of college.
My daughter's 22. My son is 26.
And now they're starting to see what life is really about. Mm-hmm. My son's still getting into that process. So like I said, he's asking me these questions, and I'm like, looking at him like, bro, get an A on the test, pass the test, get straight A's. But I'm going to let you know right now, you'll never use that in life. You'll never use whatever that math problem is.
And see,
you'll never use
what?
It.
It's funny. I used to think the same thing, and then in certain lines of work, I found myself using algebra.
Yeah.
This stuff I thought, I'm never going to use. So it all depends on what.
That's true. That's true.
What field and what walk of life.
But we will always use a checking account. We'll always use some kind of finance.
But see, that's basic adding and subtracting and multiplying.
That's true, but how to do
it?
Yeah. Taxes. Everybody got to pay taxes, so they might as well teach it how to do in school. Mm-hmm. TurboTax has a monopoly on the whole tax system. Mm-hmm. They do that on purpose. Yeah. So we should be teaching that in school. We should be teaching how to build. We should be teaching how to repair stuff. Mm-hmm. And I don't think we teach any of that. Kids, they just don't know how to do certain things.
No, and then my thing is
auto shop.
Yeah,
everybody drives a car.
Yeah, but see, now cars are so complex. Cars are a freaking computer now.
But you have to have the basics.
Yeah.
how do you fix it? How do you change a tire? How do you change brakes? What are calipers? You know, exhaust, filters. I mean, just the basic things. And one, the kids don't have interest in it. I'll tell you that right. They're just not interested in it anymore. My son has no interest in driving. My 11-year-old daughter wants to drive more than my son. So it's kind of one of those things where I wish, me personally, at 41, I wish I was taught more things that would have benefited me day-to-day life than the English, you know, writing assignments that I had.
You end up using it all, because like I'm a pretty decent spoken cat. I know how to speak the King's English, and I know how to speak Ebonics really well. And so I think I'm pretty well spoken dude. I think English helped me with that. I can write pretty well. I think English helped me with that, and that's helped me in my professional and in my regular life.
Yeah.
So we need it. But like I said, in high school, you should have all that. By the time you get to junior high, middle school, high school, you should be learning stuff to take you in the future.
See, and I think that's the big. And I'm not saying don't teach our kids math and science and history and stuff. What I'm saying is we should have more. It should be getting you prepared for life, because a lot of kids aren't going to go to college.
Mm-hmm.
They're just not.
Especially with the astronomical cost of college is going to be
ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Here's one for you. I want to go to film school, and so I've been looking into all kinds of film school options, and SAE Expressions in Emeryville, California. It's supposed to be a pretty good school. I was going through the process, and I went through the financial aid people call me. And so, the whole time, they're telling me about the curriculum and all of this. And I'm asking, so how much is this going to cost? How much is this going to cost? So the way their program is set up, you have to get an AA first.
Oh.
You can't even get your BA in film. You got to get the AA, then the BA.
Oh.
And so for an AA, they talking $40,000.
What?
That's what I said. $40,000. I'm like, so it's like at $40,000 for an AA. Shit, I might as well go to USC.
You might as well. You might as well pay that money.
Spend the $30,000 a semester at USC, because I walk out with a film degree from USC is going to mean a lot more than it did from them.
Wearing Skechers versus wearing Nikes. You go to USC, they're both shoes. They'll both get you from A to B. But if you say, "Oh, I have a film doctorate or a film BA from USC," that's a lot different than Emeryville.
Yeah.
Just saying that. You know? So it's super frustrating, because I look at these things and I think the same thing you're thinking. Like, yeah, I would love to go to college. But at the same time, other countries, it's not K through 12. It's K through 16. They have free college.
Yeah.
So when we argue about this free college versus not free college, and then I hear young people saying, "Well, I paid my way through school," and if we can afford to give our kids a better opportunity to teach them life lessons and things that are going to benefit them until they get to past high school into college, and then out of college and getting these great jobs, then why wouldn't we do that? Why stop yourself? Why should we limit ourselves to 12th grade? Unless you don't want to go to college, that's fine. But have a trade. Know how to weld. Know how to be a mechanic. Even if you have to do computers, dealing with Mercedes and BMWs and all the Teslas and Hummer, SUVs or whatever. Like, we have to be able to teach these things and have these kids come out of school and not just be looking around with their thumb in their butt wondering what to do in life.
True. To piggyback off what you said, there's also a component with this that you got to look at. You have kids are overachieving when it comes to math and science now. like I said, my daughter, like I told you before, I have one of my daughter's friends who has been proficient in coding since she was in the 10th grade. Mm-hmm. She graduated from high school and had $95 internships. Mm. So it's like, it's on both ends of that sword.
Yeah, but she's on the far spectrum of what an average kid is.
Right, but my thing is, she's on the far spectrum because her parents chose to put her in coding in the 6th, 7th grade.
That's true. But most parents are going to just go to work, provide for the families.
Well, you know what? Yes and no. I don't agree with that because I learned when my kids were playing Pop Warner, the most ghetto parents were the ones that were the most concerned about their children.
That's true. The things you're saying, I don't doubt. But even my kids in school right now, if you just go to the school and just look, most parents are concerned about their child's well-being, make sure they're safe, and make sure they're getting a great education.
I'm talking about academia.
When we first put my son in school, I'll never forget because we had the parent-teacher conference or, the little open house or whatever. Mm-hmm. And they told us in this open house, they said, our school is packed. It is 32 kids to a class. So the things that they're supposed to get out of this class, they probably won't get because we won't be able to get to everybody in this class. So the first thing me and my ex-wife did is looked at each other and said, we got to get out of this school. Because there's no way on earth I'm going to let my kid succumb to just being mediocre. Because he doesn't have the help to be better. That's the big thing. So, after all this COVID protocol, this is something I just heard too. After all this COVID protocol, speaking of class sizes, they're saying that they want to add more teachers to make class sizes smaller. Mm-hmm. One, to help with catching up because a lot of these kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade kids need to be in a class and have that motivation from each other and the playtime and all that stuff, but also to keep classes to keep kids more separated from each other in class. But that's a little side thing that just popped in my head. But I would hope that parents are motivated to keep their kids, to make sure their kids are doing what they're supposed to do and make sure their kids are put in a position to be educated. But most parents are going to sit there and just be like, hey, go to school. Did you do your homework? Yes. Not saying they're not concerned, but they're not going to put their kids in Pop Warner. They're not going to put their kids in Bell Passy. Well, my way it's called Bell Passy baseball. They're not going to put their kids and make sure their kids are doing some kind of after-school program. They're just making sure their kids stay out the street and stay semi-healthy and semi-safe.
But that's how you keep the kids out of the street, in athletics.
That's true. That's how I was learned. But everybody's not athletic.
No, but you know what? And I it's interesting you said it because I always seen where when we were growing up, our parents put us in athletics, even non-athletic ones, because it helped you become athletic. And then it also taught you how to work in a team setting.
It's true.
Yeah, some of us did Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts and all of that, but for the most part, we all played some type of sport. There was some sport we played.
Yeah, but some parents realized real quick that their kids were they weren't going to be the fastest, the strongest, and it was going to get ran all the way over in football.
Yeah, but everybody
so I mean, then you have the confidence. You don't want to destroy the confidence of a child. Like there's all that stuff, and now it's a little different because you get when my son played basketball, they were destroying teams. Like he had an all-star team, and I kind of felt bad for the other teams, but we was winning, so it was kind of like, eh. But then he's scoring 30 points a game, 20 points a game at 10 years old, and everybody on the team gets a trophy.
Well,
so it's kind of like one of those things. Like, what do you do? What do you do with that?
Well, I don't agree with participation trophies. No. We've talked about that before. I'm not from that era. I don't agree in a participation trophy.
Yeah.
You get a trophy for the first 4 places, and everybody else gets a ribbon, and it says your place. And next year you do better.
Yeah.
That's part of the because see, you think in our society, losing is part of the motivation to be better.
That's true. That's true. That's absolutely
And that's
true.
why all this coddling the kids, oh, we don't want them to. No, we want them to know how to lose at an early age so they know this shit don't feel good.
Well, I mean, that, and so they know what they're good at. You're not going to be good at everything.
But you got to remember, sports, school, everything prepares you for life.
Absolutely.
And life, you're going to take some L's.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's what I'm saying. So when it comes to this, you have to know, I knew I hated school. I only did the college that I did because I wanted to do that particular thing. Mm-hmm. It was just strictly business. That was it. I just wanted to know how to do business and a wide array of business stuff. So I took the college course for that. But I hate school. I never liked school.
I love school.
See, I don't. So I knew that I was going to be good at athletics. I knew I was going to be good at public speaking. I knew I was going to be good at stuff like that had ideas and I could show my presence. This right here.
Show his vanity.
Whatever. This right here. Something like this. But as far as like being behind the scenes and doing this, that's not my strong suit. But I know that. Because I've taken L's doing this. And I'm like, I'm going to stay away from that. I'm going to have a team behind me that can do this while I can be in the front doing this. Because they don't want to do this. So I feel like our education system has to be ever evolving, and it's not.
And it does. That is a definite, because times change and the education system needs to change with it.
Absolutely. And that's the biggest thing. That's the reason why I wanted to bring up this subject, because I think it has to be talked about, and it's not talked about enough. We've talked about, the police. We've talked about judicial system. We've never really sat and talked about education and how that affects us. Because we look at education and we look at people and we're like, or I look at my kids and I look at their work. I'm like, what is this? Like, this is not what I'm particularly used to. This is not the math that I'm particularly used to, but I understand that they're trying new things, and now they have Common Core, which is a whole bunch of different, has its own whole bunch of different issues. But I just feel like we need to have a more trade-based educational system.
But another aspect of this that people don't talk about is the fact that funding for schools is not equal.
Not at all.
And even in the same city, like here in Oakland, the kids in the flatlands don't get the same benefits as the kids that live in the hills. And I'm not talking about private school. Because the people in the hills can afford to pay for the supplementary stuff that they want for their kids. They can pay for the teacher to come in and teach German and Spanish and French in the elementary school. You can't get that here. So I feel like in our education system, we should put more money into lower income area schools than we put into the middle class and the rich area schools.
How do you fund that?
What you mean, how do you fund that in the budget? You just write more money in the budget for certain areas than you do for other areas. Because
the way the budget works, as far as I hear, it goes by census readings and all this other stuff.
Yeah, but I'm saying I'm talking about in the school districts. Once the school districts have the money, see, that's what you got to think about. That you talking about how they get the money, but now that they have the money, there should be a focus in certain areas that is spent more time on making sure these people in this area are getting what they need, especially knowing the pitfalls that's going on in those communities.
Do you think that the schools that are offering these amenities, German, Spanish, at multiple different levels or a younger level? Because my son's school, he went to a charter school, and they offered that. They offered Spanish. They were teaching these kids Spanish in second grade because they knew that people had to be bilingual, which is cool. But as a high school kid, when you're trying to find this path and trying to figure out what you want to do in life, what do you think the school should focus their attention on at their particular school? What do you think should be, okay, this school, we need to focus on these main concepts?
I don't like that, because then that, to me, that's like putting coding in the middle class and the upper class areas, and putting metal shop, auto shop, and plumbing and all of that in the lower class areas. And you get what I'm saying? To me, that's what would happen if you did that. If you tried to tailor it to the areas.
But aren't they already doing that?
No.
Well, I mean, think about it. If you have upper class areas and they have laptops, computers, better computer classrooms, better this, you're kind of tailoring it already.
Well, I guess you can say that.
You know,
but see, right now the way schools are too. At least, like, see, here in Oakland, the people that live in the hills kind of block kids from the flatland to go to hill schools.
Okay. Yeah. Which is usually what happens. They don't want any other kids coming,
and that way they can spend their money on their kids. You know what I mean? And so what happens to the kids where there's nobody to spend that money on them?
What happens if you just dump a bunch of money into schools? What do you think would happen? What do you think if you just double right now? If you just double the money into schools?
For one, you got to make sure there's somebody's overseeing to make sure the money is truly spent on.
But let's say all that's good.
All that's good.
Let's say all that, and now all of a sudden the schools have double the money they have. What do you think would happen with? What do you think would happen with the kids that are coming up, the students that are coming up in these next 4 years in high school? Say Oakland Tech, all of a sudden had double the money.
Well, see, Oakland Tech is the best school in the Oakland Public School District.
Okay, so
you can't get. My thing is, let's say
one right down.
Let's say you give Castlemont double the money. I bet you see an increase in kids graduating. I think you'd see an increase in smarter kids. I think the educational level would go up. But another thing on this we haven't spoke about on this topic is the education of teachers. Because let's take in consideration, when I was growing up, I didn't have a fucking 20-year-old teacher, a 25-year-old teacher. Yeah. I didn't have that.
Yeah.
My teachers were 30, 40, 50 years old.
Smell like cigarettes and coffee. And bad breath and brown teeth.
And now you have kids fresh out of college teaching kids
who are almost pretty similar. I mean, same height, that's for sure.
And so it's a big difference in what they're getting in their education, because it's a difference in values being taught.
Yeah, respect.
It's a difference in respect level being taught.
Yeah.
It's a whole lot of stuff that's just not the same. And see, when we were growing up, we had tenured teachers that had been teaching for 20 and 30 years. I think my kids didn't even have half the teachers. Half of their teachers had not been teaching 15 years.
I would hope. I guess my hope was this. I would hope that if some magical way that schools, and I would hope this happens now. We have to be able to teach our kids mental health. We have to be able to teach our kids about physical health, and more so as far as like how the body reacts to stuff, meditation, anxiety, depression, like. These things have to be addressed. There's so much stuff going on and so many killings going on. And we're dealing with coronavirus. We're dealing with all these things that kids don't know how to deal with the feelings that they have. Boys have been taught to stuff stuff down and not deal with their emotions.
True, but see, here's another thing you got to remember. A kid only learns what you teach it. A kid is a sponge.
Yeah.
So my thing is, if you're teaching fear, if you're teaching if they're watching a parent, once they're in a stressful situation,
not
crack from anxiety and not handle it well, it becomes something they take on.
Yeah, but then there's generational trauma too.
Yeah, there's generational
so you
trauma.
Have the generational trauma that comes down.
Just like there's hereditary mental illness.
So you have to be able to teach them how to deal with that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I think our generation, your generation too, to a lesser extent, but mine, and I'm just going by 10-year spans. Mine was one of the first to sit there and say, okay, look, there's a big issue here. The generation under me is like, your son's generation is all about emotions. Like, they're all about feelings, and this is how it is.
All this emo ass.
Oh yeah, all these rappers and like, oh, this. So I think it has to be addressed even more because now is the time for people to get their brains in order, because now people don't have a problem saying, Osaka, she don't have a problem saying, I'm gonna take some time off because this is killing me. Like, this has really affected me, so I'm gonna take some time off. When back in the day, they would just smoke a cigarette and get called nigga and keep it moving. You know what I'm saying? Like they dealt with things differently. It was more of this like armor, but now it's not about that.
And then too, I think in my generation, like I said, my parents are from the civil rights Jim Crow era, and my parents kind of raised me to be armored for what's coming. And I think I say like this: every family has a bit of dysfunction. I don't think the dysfunction in my family life outweigh the functional, structural building that my parents did for me.
Okay, I get that. You know, but I think most people aren't like you.
Right. Most people,
and people don't have that that fundamental foundation that you have.
And see, and I'm not saying my parents are perfect.
No,
they had their issues, but I think that the way they raised me helped make me strong the way I was.
Yeah. And I think because you had that foundation is why you are obviously who you are. But I think if you didn't have the foundation, you could be like a lot of these other people. But if we figured out a way to get these things, meditation taught in schools, like watching Hard Knocks, they're doing yoga. You know, they're teaching these dudes ballet. They're teaching for footwork. You're giving them tools to use that they might not use. How many times have you used a butter knife to unscrew something?
A million times.
A million times. You take what you have and you use it for what you need it for, right? And so if we taught these young cats yoga, if we taught them Pilates, if we taught them how their body works and it functions, then they can use those things for other things in life.
Yeah.
Especially meditation, especially, you know, affirmations, especially because a lot of these cats don't have, as much as this machismo and this they don't have confidence. They don't think they're valued or worth anything. And so if we taught that in school, and like I said, changing it has to be ever evolving.
Yeah.
These girls who are on, you know, we looking at them and they're looking at these girls on Instagram, it has to be ever evolving because they think they need to look like that. No, you don't. Be you.
Yeah, but see, the biggest problem is that you're going into something that's societal because they know we're saying no, they don't need to, but all the boys in their age group are saying they do need to.
But that's because they're both being taught something.
And hold on. All the fathers of them boys are saying, that's fine. You get what I'm saying?
It probably is.
Well, you got to remember, beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
That's true.
Some dudes like dark-skinned women. Some dudes like light-skinned women. Some white guys like tan white girls. Some white guys like pale white girls.
But you will find, if you're just you, and I'm saying just, I can't put makeup on. I can go get one of them new hair pieces and have some hair, but that's about it. I'm gonna go do that. I'm gonna get on here and just have a whole taper. I'm gonna address YOLO. So I think that if you just stay true to yourself and we teach these kids at a young age to just be true to themselves, then their lives will be a lot. Because we've all lived some kind of like lie at one point, trying to be something, trying to be bigger, trying to be stronger, trying to be, you know what I'm saying? Have more, look like you got more money than you got.
Have more women.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? We've all done it. So
I think that's the American way.
I think we have to just get back down to the grassroots of, look, this is what it is. This is what it is. This is what we're going to teach you. And then you take this and use this as a cornerstone to build outwardly.
Yeah, and try and I get what you're saying. Trying to build better, better people,
individuals. Absolutely.
Because I think that's part of the biggest problem with the United States. We sit here and want to sit here and feed our children and ourselves that we are the greatest country in the world. But when you look at us, we're not the most educated. We're not the most polite. We're not, we're not great at anything.
And you don't.
We're not even good at anything.
You don't realize that until you start looking and seeing what other countries are doing. You look and see Sweden only has a 5-hour school day, and they have 15 minutes of homework. That's it. You know why? Because they know that the family unit is the most important thing. If you have a strong family, then everything else is everything else. And if your kids are sitting there doing,
I don't agree with the 15 minutes of homework.
15 minutes of homework. Because you do all your stuff in school. Because they're teaching you stuff that you're going to That's the smartest country out here.
Okay.
And that's what I'm saying. But imagine, you have an hour of homework. Not an hour of homework for math. An hour of homework for 6 different classes. So you going to school for 8 hours, and then you got 6 hours of homework?
I get that.
You damned if I did. That's why I hated school. I'm just being real. And I was a student. I was a lot lazier than the potential that I had. Okay. And there's some kids who don't have the potential. And so you got to give them 6 hours of homework?
Yeah.
I get it. It's always, you're always
and like we said, we're learning certain methods of teaching that does not work for everybody.
Absolutely. I mean, goes back in the day where people were left-handed. They made them right-handed.
So, great topic. What's you guys' opinion? Y'all can let us know on the social medias. Let us know if this is something we need to talk further about, because, like I said, our children are the future. And if we create a faulty product, we're going to have a faulty outcome. So we need to correct all the little problems we have now so we can make this country a better place.
Absolutely.
I'm Knoc.
I'm Knef CEO.
Thank you for tuning in to the Knoc and Knef Show.
Till next time.
Peace.